All-Star game has ever come to Kansas City, and we are delighted to bring it to you. As we welcome you into the commentary booth. Looking at the cauldron there, it's going to be some cauldron, isn't it? He's Taylor Twellman, I'm Adrian Healy. For MLS players, chances to test their mettle against the European elite are few and far between, aren't they, Taylor? This is one of those occasions, the visit of Roma providing the ideal showcase for MLS.
Well, and Adrian, that showcase you talk about is twofold. On display all week long has been the transformation of Kansas City into a soccer city. Think of this, in 2010, Sporting Kansas City was playing in a baseball stadium 5 minutes from here. Remarkable turnaround, but it's also about the collection of stars coming together tonight for that one night. How often will you see Marco Di Vaio and Thierry Henry together against arguably the greatest player of his generation in Italy, Francesco Totti and Michael Bradley? Tonight's All-Star game should be special.
Yeah, it's going to be a heady mix of experienced internationals and those making their debut on this sort of stage. The coin toss has been made. Michael Bradley, what a special, special night for him on his birthday. And he's being coached by a man, Peter Vermes, who's coaching this game for the first time in his home stadium. And Peter Vermes said something very interesting leading up to this game. Perhaps not the Peter Vermes that you and I know, Taylor. He said, they're just going to keep it simple tonight.
And that's the subject of my Continental Tire Analyst Corner. It's extremely difficult to execute any kind of game plan with only one training for this competitive All-Star game. But Vermes was very smart with his 4-4-2 lineup. Think about it. Collin and Beasler, teammates from Kansas City, Beckerman and Will Johnson, former teammates from Real Salt Lake, and then Davis and Ash on the left-hand side. Vermes is looking for any kind of continuity he can find to give his team the best chance against Roma tonight.
And going over to greet his opposite number tonight, Rudy Garcia. There he is, the Frenchman who's just taken charge in Rome, literally just a few weeks ago. Bit of a surprise appointment, if you ask many, in the Italian capital city, but his pedigree in France is unquestioned. Talking of the French, there'll be quite a collection of them tonight, led by that man for the MLS All-Stars, Thierry Henry, partnering Marco Di Vaio up front. The 35-year-old and the 37-year-old together leading the line for the MLS All-Stars as we get underway. Quick look at our referee cam. Hilario Grajeda is the man in the middle, and yes, he is sporting a camera tonight, and we will check in on his viewpoint of the game from time to time. The MLS All-Stars wearing the special shirt designed for the game. Roma in their traditional giallorossi, as they call it, the yellow and red. The Italians will be going from right to left. First ever MLS All-Star game against Italian opposition. Our pre-game show, we highlighted the success that MLS have had against European opponents over the years, against teams from England and Scotland and Mexico. Beating the European champions of the time, Chelsea, just a year ago, was quite a night in Philadelphia. But this has been already a splendid week in the build-up to this game. Now we're looking for the payoff. Thierry Henry looking for the first opportunity of the game. Sees the ball just elude his grasp. The cauldron, they call it here. This fantastic arena, which has been sold out for 27 consecutive MLS games. Of course, you couldn't get a ticket for this for love nor money. Here's Beckerman. Right to Tony Beltran, making his first MLS start, the RSL man. And he chisels out the first corner of the game. Beltran, who's had to be so patient, Taylor, for his time, even with RSL. He was behind Robbie Russell for so long there. But Brad Davis, the man in charge of the set piece for the All-Stars. He of the exquisite left foot. But that's a gift for Morgan DeSantis, making his Roma start tonight. Recently acquired goalkeeper. A little nudge in the back from Junior Tallo. Roma, who travelled here over the weekend, having played in Greece against Aris Thessaloniki. And the side they're putting out tonight is a little different from that one because Eric Lamela, the Argentine striker, pulled up in training yesterday. And of course, still no Daniel De Rossi out there for them, as his future remains a little uncertain.
No, but you can tell which team is in form. The players from MLS, and obviously Peter Vermes talked about it yesterday in training, that the first 15 minutes, listen, Roma's trying to get fit, get ready for their season, put pressure on Roma early on in this game.
A very different mindset and physical conditions out there, isn't it? Said, the MLS players very much in mid-season form. So that's a little dink through, and there's an opportunity here for Strootman! Oh, it's an own goal, would you believe it? Aurelien Collin got the final touch. Of all things, the flag stayed down. Strootman was bursting through, but I think that's going down as an own goal. Collin in front of his own fans here, turning it past Raul Fernandez, and Roma strike early.
And arguably their biggest signing this offseason. Strootman is huge, but when you watch this run, Strootman's coming from here. Both center backs are pushed too high. Look at how high that line is from the MLS All-Stars, and Strootman comes from no man's land. That's such a deep run, and that's the part of this game that he's going to bring to Roma this season. Collin did a little unlucky to deflect that off of Strootman, but what a run in behind.
Yeah, it's going to be Kevin Strootman's goal, isn't it? Looking at that, Collin got the tackle in, but deflected it right onto Strootman's leg. And what a start for him. Kevin Strootman, who's just arrived from PSV. The Dutch midfielder giving Roma a dream start here. As you said, Taylor, that was a remarkably high defensive line from the All-Stars. It is Collin and Beasley together at the back for the All-Stars. One of the several partnerships you mentioned, plenty of familiarity with the two Houston players playing together down the left, Corey Ash and Brad Davis. And even in the center, Kyle Beckerman and Will Johnson. Different teams now, but so many years together. Here's a legend, quite simply that. Francesco Totti on the ball. What a ball too for Tallo. It's offside. The flag has gone up. That's some inquest going on at the heart of the All-Stars defense early on. It's a simple pass from Totti, which seemed to release Tallo.
Well, and immediately when Totti plays this ball in behind, you see Collin and Beckerman having words, and this is the uncertainty you have with your center back and center midfielder not being on the same team, and it's very important. You can hear the loud noise here. Communication's important, but Totti's 30 yards from your goal. There has to be ball pressure from that point. You can't allow Totti 30 yards from your own goal to pick up his head, have time, and knock that ball in behind.
Well, in a city called the Eternal City, Francesco Totti just seems to go on forever, doesn't he? It's quite a remarkable career, which is becoming more and more unique in the modern game. The fact that he's stuck with one club for as long as he has. That's the Greek fullback, Tarasidis, on the far side. Totti, who's 36 now, has been in the Roma first team for fully 20 years. Just think about that. His debut as a 16-year-old. Despite many attempts to lure him away, he's always stayed in the Italian capital city.
Well, one of those attempts was from Marco Di Vaio. He talked about that in the press conference, trying to get Totti to come here to MLS. But when you've played over 500 games for the same club, scored over 200 goals, I understand staying with your club. That's something special.
He's very much the Romanista, as they say. Daniel De Rossi is another. There's Totti's ball. How about that for accuracy? And another chance for Roma, which isn't taken this time. Florenzi, the young attacking midfielder, clean in on goal, but skewing his shot wide. What a pass.
It's remarkable, though, the amount of space. Look at Corey Ash, gets caught ball watching. He's stuck up back on his heel, and Florenzi times that run perfect. Yes, it's the great ball, but it's the perfect run 60 yards away. Corey Ash has to be on his toes much earlier defending Not on his heels.
Well, if the MLS All-Stars had any doubts about the sort of challenge they were facing tonight, I think they've been very quickly removed. Roma may be in pre-season form and fitness, but Peter Vermees has these substitutes to turn to at some stage in the game. I'm sure we'll see all of them. Chris Wondolowski and Camilo up front. Jack McInerney is there too. Remember, 20 players part of this MLS All-Star Game Day roster. Thierry Henry trying to jig his way through. Beckerman only as far as Bradley, and Roma can relieve the pressure again here. Strootman, their big money signing. Cost some $23 million.
They unretired the number 6 jersey for him.
They did.
You better be good.
Aldair, the Brazilian legend, had that number retired only a decade ago.
You think they called him and asked permission?
They also mentioned that it used to be Mark van Bommel's number with PSV, who was his idol growing up. Here is Strootman on the ball. Colin. Here's Graham Zusi. 3 hometown players in the starting lineup. Sporting Kansas City and Real Salt Lake led all MLS teams with selections for this All-Star game. Houston, LA and Montreal just behind them with 2 apiece. We should mention there were a couple of withdrawals as well, Taylor, through to injury. Robbie Keane and Tim Cahill unable to take part. They were initially selected. Landon Donovan and Jack McInerney selected as their replacements.
Pretty cool, though, to see Tim Cahill make the trip out here as well.
Yeah, he's here. Seems to be in some sort of coaching role, doesn't he? As Henry tries to link up with DeVio. DeVio's return service. Was keying in on Brad Davis, but didn't reach him. Tied it up by Miralem Pjanic, the Bosnia and Herzegovina international.
But Adrian, that's the combination coming into this game I was most excited about is DeVio and Henry up front. How often are you going to see 2 players like that? Henry wants to play underneath DeVio. DeVio will test that back line. He leads MLS in offside by double 45, but he loves to test that back line with runs in behind.
Here's Totti. Arrowing his way inside. Totti's shots taking a little deflection. It'll be a Roma corner. Second all-time in Serie A goal scoring. Francesco Totti. And when you consider that Thierry Henry is 3rd all-time still in the English Premier League, they're the only 2 active players still ranked in the top 3 in the Big 5 when it comes to European leagues. Strootman hemmed in near the corner flag. It's Balzaretti. Now Pjanic. Torresidis fancies a go. But not enough to test Raul Fernandez, the Peruvian goalkeeper who gets the nod tonight over Nick Rimando in goal. Fernandez has had some spectacular games this season. Taylor, we saw one of them, Dallas's defeat in Portland. Quite an addition to the league. Previously playing in French football, he was with Nice. Players returning for the All-Stars from last year and that win against Chelsea. But only 2 starters, though, interestingly, in that they're both Frenchmen, Aurélien Collin and Thierry Henry. Coriash running out of room. to operate, but the throw-in goes the All-Stars way. Hilario Grajeda has a little extra weight to carry around with him tonight, doesn't he?
Now finally someone understands my pain.
You and me both, sir. You and me both. That's the viewpoint from Mr. Grajeda's camera. He's very kindly put it on for us tonight. Bradley arriving to intercept.
I mean, Adrian, how good of a spot is that from Michael Bradley? Because Tony Beltran tucks inside. Now it's extremely difficult for that back four to pick up that run out of the midfield. Michael Bradley in the right spot at the right time.
Bradley coming to the start of his second year with Roma, his third year in Italy. Totti has his work cut out here. And you look at what's happened when MLS All-Stars have played international opponents over the years. It's pretty good, isn't it? Both the defeats in 10 previous games came in consecutive seasons against Manchester United, and they were heavy defeats too, but otherwise pretty unblemished record. The draw came against Everton in 2009. Zusi. Beckerman on hand to win it back. Now Henry was caught there as he tried to link up with DeVio. Turns 36 next month, Thierry Henry. That's the view that the referee had a look at. Graham Zusi trying to prime the pump here for the All-Stars. Flick on from Beasler, his club teammate. Totti's clearance. It's back into traffic. Roma struggling to clear their lines. Totti, though, is so adept at finding space. He was aware of where the run was from Florenzi. Good interception this time by Zusi. Hungrily picked up, and a quick ball too for DeVio, who stays onside. Marco DeVio! Well, he's always a man that lives on the shoulder of the last defender, DeVio.
And this is exactly the kind of forward that Marco DeVio is the moment that ball turns over, he's on the back shoulder of that center back. So often when you watch games, Adrian, you're looking for your center forwards to try to expose that center back, get him one-on-one. DeVio is extremely good at pulling off that back shoulder.
A man who knows the opponents oh so well tonight, Marco DeVio. Born in Rome. Came up through the youth system of their big rivals, Lazio. Zusi. Pjanic able to nick it away from him. Now Totti trying to launch Strootman forward. Strootman has already found the back of the net once, but no way past Matt Beasler there. If someone embodies the term hometown hero here in Kansas City, it has to be Matt Beasler. Zusi. A little better now from the All-Stars, Taylor, trying to get their feet in the game.
Well, and it's all coming off number 14, Thierry Henry in the midfield. When he drops deep, that's the pleasure of an All-Star game. Now you have in the midfield Brad Davis or Graham Zusi tucking forward, getting forward next to Marco DeVio up front. A lot of interchanging in the midfield from the MLS All-Stars right now.
Brad Davis playing his fifth All-Star game. A man Taylor, who you feel really turned his career around a few years ago, back in 2008.
Yeah, 2008, he made a commitment to that fitness, and I think we've seen it now in 2013 with the men's national team. Jurgen Klinsmann's brought him into a couple situations where it calls for a more defensive midfielder type of thing. At Azteca, 0-0 draw, coming in, playing defense for the last 15-20 minutes. He's been more of a complete player since 2008.
Not forced to defend again as Roma chisel away down the right-hand side. There's Davis. Just reached his 300th appearance in MLS. Only the 22nd player to do so. Castan across to Balzaretti, the left back. Some of you may remember from Italy at Euro 2012. A summer ago, he was starting for them. Michael Bradley. Nobody's played more games for the United States over the last 7 years than Michael Bradley. Totti on to Balzaretti. Balzaretti's cross is too close to Fernandez. But watching Totti at work is...
Oh my God, it's just ridiculous, Adrian. You know, he looks like he's not really moving around, but it's his understanding of when to tuck inside, when to come out wide. It's a pleasure to watch. Speechless.
Every pass seems to be weighted perfectly, doesn't it?
Well, the technical side is one thing. I just love watching him, the understanding of what type of run in that situation is needed.
Off Bradley. Henry unable to get past Pjanic. Now Totti. Good work from Colin. Roma are a club coming off by their lofty standards a fairly disappointing year last year. They finished only 6th in Serie A. Finished actually 10 points out of the Champions League spots. Certain amount of rebuilding taking place, and the new manager as well, Frenchman Rudy Garcia. Totti's ball again inside Aurelian Collin. This time the cutback from Florenzi finds no takers, but he is just opening up this All-Stars defense at will. You're seeing a magician at work in the early stages. Hungrily won back by Strootman. The overlapping option provided by Torresidis. Bradley's layoff. Strootman can't find his way through. The All-Stars defense congealing.
This is such a difficult test for the MLS All-Stars tonight, because if watching Roma, especially in the midfield, Adrian, when that ball immediately turns over, Bradley and Strootman are all over the place, immediate ball pressure. MLS All-Stars having a difficult time breaking that pressure.
Well, we're so glad you could join us tonight. ESPN's coverage of the MLS All-Star Game is brought to you by Adidas, pushing the game forward. And it's also brought to you by AT&T, Rethink Possible. From Sporting Park, just outside of Kansas City. Roma with the early breakthrough here, courtesy of Kevin Strootman. A little inadvertent helping hand from Aurelian Collin along the way. Kyle Beckerman playing in his 7th straight MLS All-Star Game, or selected for his 7th straight. Actually hasn't played in all of them. That, by the way, is the 2nd longest streak behind Landon Donovan, who is here, and we expect to see him in the second half. We have Monica Gonzalez with us as well. Monica.
Well, Adrian, Graham Zusi just came over to the sideline, pointed to his quad, and told Peter Vermees that he needs to come off the field, so expect a substitution here pretty soon.
Thanks, Monica. Well, that would be a real blow for Zusi and for the fans here. Looks like Camilo, the Brazilian striker from the Vancouver Whitecaps, is warming up.
And that's the last thing every MLS coach wants. It's a great showcase, but it's in the middle of the season on a Wednesday night. That's the last thing Vermes wanted.
Balzaretti, he's offside. They are having a field day down the flanks at the moment. Roma. And here's confirmation of Graham Zusi's departure.
Substitution for the mlsallstars. Checking in the Vancouver Whitecaps.
Good look via Hilario Grajeda's camera. Graham Zusi, who was nominated for an ESPY, the best player in MLS, just a few weeks ago, went to LA wearing a suit fashioned for him by his teammate Aurelian Collin, who's doing some business in the fashion world, it seems. Graham Zusi will try and rest up. They have a big game against the New York Red Bulls here this weekend, and Camilo is on. So a very different sort of look now for the All-Stars. Camilo immediately into action. 25-year-old Brazilian who's been in sparkling form for Vancouver. Devayo giving chase, but Leandro Castan able to tidy up. Totti prepared to mix it up too. Camilo's joint top scorer of MLS at the moment, alongside Mike McGee, who's also here. But he was outnumbered, and Roma able to break free. How do you think this alters the setup for the All-Stars, Taylor? Losing a playmaker like Zusi, replacing him with a different sort of player.
Yeah, Camilo will move more up front, and then it just gives the freedom that Thierry Henry's had from the onset of this game. He'll drop more into the midfield than he had early on.
MLS Game of the Week will return on Sunday, August the 11th. It's Dallas against the Los Angeles Galaxy, big Western Conference clash. Sunday, August 11th, 8 Eastern on ESPN2. Also, the Watch ESPN app. And right after that game, don't go anywhere because it'll be the debut of ESPN FC on TV, our new daily studio show. August the 11th is the debut date for that. Still chanting Graham Zusi's name. Still two Kansas City players out there, though, in Beasler and Collin, the two centre-backs. Here's Davis trying to fans. 20-year-old from the Ivory Coast. Balzaretti and Totti in tandem down the left. Balzaretti with Tony Beltran coming to meet him. Now Pjanic. Bradley feeding it through to Torresidis. Again, an awful lot of room for the fullbacks. And the All-Stars will be happy to get away with the corner there.
Just an absolute clinic right now on how to keep the ball in the midfield from Roma and get your outside fullbacks going forward.
What about that? Beckerman marking Bradley. Hasn't happened too often, has it? Hasn't actually happened at club level since 2005, when Michael Bradley spent his one season in MLS as an 18-year-old. corner short. Torresidis with the better angle, but no trouble there for Raul Fernandez. So you might have seen the Audi Cup begin this afternoon in Munich. Well, tomorrow on ESPN2 we'll bring you the third place game and the final. AC Milan against Sao Paulo and Manchester City against Bayern Munich. The Audi Cup from Munich tomorrow at noon and 2:15 on ESPN2.
What was the first half? 5-3?
Today between City and AC Milan. Unbelievable. Goals were flowing like water. Here's Brad Davis. Well, he did well to engineer an opening for himself there, Brad Davis. Does have a goal in a previous All-Star game back in 2009, Brad Davis. Tidy again at the back for Roma. Well, looking like they're in pre-season form, Taylor, on this evidence so far in the first half an hour. Here's Florenzi. Bradley. Totti has switched across to the right now to try and orchestrate for the opposite flank. Torresidis going for the driven delivery. Now, what about on the road? Brought to you by Super 8. Look at Roma's schedule. They're here in the United States for a couple of weeks. They go to Boston for training. And they'll take on Toronto on August the 7th and then finish up against Chelsea at RFK Stadium on August the 10th. There's a big, big Boston connection now to Roma. They have been for a couple of years, but they have President Jim Pallotta, who's here watching them, and will probably invite them to train in his backyard, I imagine.
Yeah, and I think for over the last 12 to 18 months, we've really seen Roma try to globalize their brand. We see their deal with Disney, their contract with Nike, and also setting up that interracial camp in South Africa. They're really trying to globalize the Roma brand.
Good looking cross, and Colin was determined to get on the end of it. He did, but the angle was awkward for him.
And Adrian, it's been 31 minutes into this game, and this really is the first good attack from the MLS All-Stars.
Fine service, wasn't it, for Brad Davis? Will Johnson was in the vicinity of that too. Chance now, perhaps the cross coming in. Well, De Vaio had wormed his way down the byline. Beckerman picking up the pieces, but Bradley is there to deny him. Tallow. Little wriggle free down the byline. Bradley. Totti. Pjanic. Bradley with a little spin move, actually seemed to run into his own man. He went down, but the referee's given the free kick.
It's just unbelievable. The MLS All-Stars are chasing shadows in the midfield right now. The two-touch passing, the interaction between Strootman and Bradley, the fullbacks going forward, Totti dropping into the midfield. This has been fun to watch.
Well, the upshot is a set piece here for Roma. Francesco Totti, in his long and storied career, has scored many from this sort of range. Score like that. Totti, who actually had 14 assists in Serie A last season, his highest ever number in his 20th year. Here's Beltran. Back to Beasler. Grew up in Overland Park, not far from here, Matt Beasler. Colin. Thierry Henry appreciated the thoughts. The two Frenchmen trying to connect. The Big Head Redhead podcast continues to storm the national internet, as we like to say. This week, Taylor and Alexi talk about MLS and its midway point and wrap up the Gold Cup as well. It's available right now on iTunes, ESPN.com/podcast, or Pod Center, I should say.
For the first time in my life, I had to educate someone on music. Macklemore and Ryan Lewis. Yep.
Telling me Alexi didn't know who he was, or they were.
He had no idea.
He introduced them on Monday night, didn't he? He learned quickly. Great show, by the way. The entertainment has been fantastic this week here. The Power and Light District in Kansas City. Macklemore and Ryan Lewis on Monday night. Silversun pickups yesterday. Nothing doing for Bradley, but it spins the way of Torresidis. Here's Monica with an update on Graham Zusi.
Adrian, I spoke to the team physician. He said that when Graham Zusi kicked the ball, his quad didn't feel right. That's why he decided to come off the field. And the physician told me that he does have a knot in his quad, and it's probably a strain, but he said he definitely doesn't have a tear, and it's still too early to tell whether he'll be able to play this weekend or not.
In a huge game this weekend.
Yeah, New York Red Bulls, and Peter Vermees was joking, wasn't he? He said he was going to give some of his Kansas City players an easier time tonight and play Thierry Henry a full 90 minutes.
Well, that injury, though, throws a loop into his plans because he did have to pick two guys that would play 90 minutes. One of those is Colin at center back, and he couldn't figure it out before the game who that second player would be.
Yeah, it's really a marvelous season that's unfolding at MLS, getting towards 2/3 of the way through the regular season. If you haven't been following it, the race is amazingly tight. Only 12 points separating, or rather 7 points separating the top 12 teams. Landon Donovan is here and waiting in the wings after his Gold Club exploits. Totti. And Svanberg's already, but an offside flag again. It's becoming a theme. Nasty collision at the end of that, even with the flag up. Raul Fernandez had to go for the ball.
It's just been a dangerous high line from the MLS All-Stars, and he's about 10 yards offside. You don't need a referee cam for that one.
He was almost in Missouri, wasn't he? He was so far offside. The stadium, in case you didn't know, is actually in Kansas rather than Missouri. Just about 15 minutes from downtown Kansas City. Trying to instigate things. Coriash onto Davis. Once again, seemingly Roma able to swarm the MLS player on the ball.
Yeah, but that's the first thing. The next thing is two passes and they're out of pressure.
First time cross this time, beyond the reach of Tallo, who is probably, to be fair, the number 4 striker for Roma, Junior Tallo. No, Eric Lamela, we told you about him. Pablo Osvaldo also ahead of him in the pecking order. Also not available tonight. Aurelian Collin had a big fashion show here yesterday. His AC-78 line of suits given a workout. Totti, not this time. Cut out by Will Johnson. The only Portland Timbers representative here, Will Johnson. And alongside a man who played with for several seasons, Kyle Beckerman. And Portland, of course, will host next year's MLS All-Star game. That was just announced a couple of weeks ago. There is Will Johnson. Only the Timbers' second ever All-Star. Jack Dewsbury was an All-Star in 2011.
Well, when we saw the All-Star game history with foreign opponents, I like this year. We're moving out of that EPL opponent. Now we're seeing Roma. I'd like to see someone from the Bundesliga maybe. Maybe bring over a Dortmund, a Bayern Munich. Really, let's just go around the world and play a team.
I like your thinking.
Plus, I just want to bother, people on Twitter about my bothersome hatred for the EPL.
Bradley for Roma. Really put on a clinic for a lot of this first half. Peter Vermees is going to have some thinking to do, isn't he, at half-time? MLS All-Stars manager on his home turf. Totti with a curler, Tallo! Shot on target from the youngster from the Ivory Coast.
Well, and with injuries come opportunities to play, and Tallo's been extremely good of coming off that opposite touch. So difficult to use your opposite foot outside the shot to get that on frame. What a touch. But see, this is the little thing right now. Roma pushes forward. They've got 5-6 guys going forward. It's a little thing, but such a good professional foul from Strootman there.
And a little talking to, which you saw through our referee cam. Hilario Grajeda, quick word with Strootman. Can the MLS All-Stars get going before the break? Camilo has produced some choice moments from free kicks this season for Vancouver. This is a long way out. Trying to find Aurelian Collin. And Beckerman's efforts look like they're going to be rewarded with a corner. It's the second corner this first half for the All-Stars. They're getting to their feet here. In Kansas City, the Cauldron. Davis and Henry. Well, he was trying to line that up for the bicycle, wasn't he? It was drifting in his direction. Instead, there's danger now for the All-Stars as Roma plow their way forward. But a little bit of miscommunication there. Tallo was on a different wavelength to everyone else. And back comes Thierry Henry for more. Nice work as well. Johnson outside him, in comes the cross. Well, for once, they caught Roma a little stretched at the back there. Ash in his second All-Star game. That'll be an All-Star free kick. Davis hauled down by Strootman. And having earned the free kick, I think Brad Davis is going to take command of this one. Morgan DeSantis in goal for Roma. Just moved a week ago from Napoli. His first meaningful moments for his new club, the 36-year-old keeper. Displaced by the arrival of Pepe Reina from Liverpool on loan in Napoli. What can Davis do? Left foot in! Oh, and Collin was close, but DeSantis was even closer. Don't go anywhere at half-time, because we'll look at the first half in our Fast and Fluid segment presented by Microsoft 8, and MLS Commissioner Don Garber will join us in the studio. He's got an announcement to make, and he'll also talk a little Chivas USA as well, with Alexi and Casey and Alejandro. Max Bretos leading the crew there. Full half-time show for you lined up. Still that early goal from Kevin Strootman is the difference maker. More possession now for the All-Stars. Camilo, though, is on the wrong end of a fine tackle there by Michael Bradley. Tallo, who was playing in the second division in Italy, Serie B last year with Bari. Malzaretti. Colin straining everything to cut it out. The man his manager calls a destroyer, Aurelian Colin. Third corner for Roma. There's only going to be 1 minute of stoppage time, I can tell you that, as Totti prepares to deliver. Oh, a near post flick. It was Benatia, the Moroccan, who came forward. Maybe Benatia, another new arrival for Roma. Henry trying to be the instigator from deep, as you noted, Taylor. He's dropped a little deeper and deeper to try and make things happen. How would you sum up what you've seen in the first half, Taylor, from the All-Stars perspective?
It's been extremely difficult to break down Roma, particularly in the midfield. They have opportunities to find Beckerman, Will Johnson, Brad Davis. But how often have we called Marco Di Vaio's name?
Yeah.
How often have we said Thierry Henry? The only way you say Thierry Henry is if he drops right next to Beckerman or Will Johnson at some point this second half. They have to stretch that back line from Roma.
Roma at the other end have been doing a lot of stretching of the All-Stars defense, haven't they, particularly on the flanks. Is it going to continue here? Bradley. Rescue this time. The pass from Pjanic. Bradley to Strootman. Malzaretti to Totti. And that will do it. Hilario Grajeda has signaled half-time, so the MLS All-Stars head in trailing by a goal to nil. Kevin Strootman's early efforts, despite the best attempts of Aurelian Colin, to disrupt half-time show awaiting you, folks, so don't go anywhere at all. We'll hear from Commissioner Don Garber a little later on in the half-time show, but first of all, here's Max Bretos. Welcome back to Sporting Park. Getting set for the second half of the 2013 AT&T MLS All-Star Game. Roma in front, courtesy of Kevin Strootman's early goal here. And the MLS All-Stars with it all to do. We've been enjoying Hilario Grajeda's referee cam. A different viewpoint on the game is one of those moments from the first half. little bit of a different viewpoint of the game, Taylor 12.
Well, at least we know what the refs are looking at then. I don't know if the refs are going to like that camera.
Like the view of the arm as well. What's Peter Vermees going to do in this second half? Because he has some weapons to turn to quite clearly, doesn't he?
Well, the MLS All-Stars, it's an All-Star game, so you have to throw caution to the wind, especially when you have Landon Donovan, Mike McGee, Jack McInerney on the bench. They have to create more chances. They have to get in behind that back line of Roma and just create chances and hopefully score some goals.
Well, you're seeing Chris Wondolowski out there. He is certainly going to be one of the changes. We're expecting some as well from Roma. Wondolowski is out there. I'll tell you that Omar Gonzalez, Nick Romando is going to take his place of Raul Fernandez in goal. Patrice Bernier, Mike McGee and Landon Donovan. So Peter Vermees isn't waiting, is he? He's really rung the changes. Nick Romando will get the second half in goal. The Real Salt Lake man. Mike McGee, what a story he has been in the firm running for MVP this season, and who would have thought that? Mike McGee, who scored goals for LA and scored goals for Chicago Fire in equal abundance, having the year of his life. Let's see if the change of personnel leads to a change in the dynamics here in the second half. The All-Stars now going from right to left. The two Frenchmen there, Thierry Henry and Aurélien Collin, who is still out there. Peter Vermees did promise, as he heard Taylor say in the first half, that two players would play a full 90 minutes, and perhaps he's going to keep it fair. One from Sporting Kansas City, one from New York, given that they play each other this weekend. Leandro Castan with a clearance towards Tallow. Appeals for handball on both sides of the pitch there, but Tallow doing battle with Beltran, who's still out there as well, the right back. In it comes, oh, and there's a chance for Roma, and 2-0 it is. Alessandro Florenzi was wide open, and he finished with some style. Made it look simple, didn't he? After Balzaretti's cross found him. Florenzi doubling the Romans' advantage. They scored early in both halves here at the All-Star game.
And this is the second time we've seen Corey Ash get caught ball watching. Because we talked about this in the first half. Immediately when that ball is won, look at how tucked in Corey Ash is right here. Florenzi, just like the first half, it's an easy run. The moment that ball turns over, that reaction from Corey Ash isn't good enough. Great ball in behind from Balzaretti. Simple finish for Florenzi, excuse me. But that's just simple defending, fundamental defending from Corey Ash that needs to get better.
Well, the Roman candle is burning bright here in Kansas City. Alessandro Florenzi, another hometown product for Roma, another Romanista. The start of just his second full year with the club. Played a lot last year though, Florenzi. Only missed 2 league games. Well, the gauntlet's been thrown down for the All-Stars. What can Thierry Henry do here? He's got 3 for company. Good looking cross. Oh, and was there any contact? Referee had a good look at it. Wondolowski was lurking. Now Donovan taking over. Landon Donovan. All-Star game number 13 in a row, this for Donovan. And that is a record. Camilo back inside to Patrice Bernier, the Montreal man, who's also out there. Mike McGee now. Bernier's ball, targeting Camilo. Here's Totti. There's only two players left on the MLS All-Stars bench after that wholesale change at half-time. DeAndre Yedlin, who was the commissioner's pick, the young fullback from Seattle, and Jack McInerney, a prolific young forward from the Philadelphia Union. Safely back by Benatia to Morgan DeSantis. Wasn't too happy about leaving Napoli, Taylor. Morgan DeSantis actually took out a full-page advert,
I was going to say.
in the Napoli newspaper, and said heart, sweat and honour was the headline in that. He's more than welcome in Rome, where they lost their starting goalkeeper Martin Stecklenburg over the summer. Not this time between Pjanic and Bradley. It breaks down. Wondolowski taking over for the All-Stars. Trying to score in consecutive All-Star games. Chris Wondolowski scored the opener last year against Chelsea. No one has scored in consecutive All-Star games since Landon Donovan did back in 2001 and 2002, his first two. Here is Donovan. Scored 4 goals in his first All-Star game. Ash. From Camilo, the Brazilian, trying to trick his way around the outside, and did so. He has been a delight to watch this year for Vancouver, isn't he, Camilo? Joint top scorer with Mike McGee, who's alongside him now for the All-Stars. From Bradley. Patrice Bernier hauling it in. Donovan with control. And Donovan, who had such a sparkling Gold Cup.
Better reaction though in the midfield from Patrice Bernier. The moment Roma tries to get forward, he wins that ball, picks up his head and finds Landon Donovan, putting pressure on that back line from Roma.
7 goals and 7 assists on his return to the United States men's national team. His corner. And by Balzaretti, and now Roma perhaps can break here. Interesting, they didn't make the switches at half-time. They want to give their starters longer out here as Totti swings it back across. Struman, Tallow. But Gonzalez is there. One very quickly back though, and Totti had held his position. Bradley, Michael Bradley for Roma, bursting into the area, but running out of real estate. Let's go down to Monica Gonzalez.
Adrian, Peter Vermees told me at halftime that he felt like the problem in the first half was that in the diamond midfield, the outside mids were getting caught too far inside and it was taking them too long to get wide. So he switched to a 4-1-4-1, and with Landon and Camilo sitting in behind Henry, he thinks the outside mids will be able to use the width and they'll be able to have more attacking options. Adrian?
Thanks so much, Monica, as Donovan is sent sprawling. Well, they haven't had to face that sort of pace so far, the Roma defenders, and Pjanic is going to be punished for bringing down Donovan. Donovan not too happy about it either.
Well, he's not. It has nothing to do with the tackle. The moment Pjanic takes down Landon Donovan, he walks right over and has words with him.
Donovan searing his way down the left-hand side. And his efforts have earned this free kick. This is a problem for that man, Morgan DeSantis. What can Thierry Henry conspire to produce here?
The key is, can Colin or Gonzalez get in front of DeSantis near post? It's a difficult spot for a goalkeeper.
Henry's found the back post. Camillo couldn't turn. Donovan battling for it deep inside the Roma penalty area, but it wouldn't break the All-Stars' way. Bernier's giving it away. And now Totti. Lovely switch, wasn't it, for Pjanic? And Tallo is on his way here. Junior Tallo for Roma. Help arriving Tallo, though. Only has eyes for goal. Bernier, such a splendid season with the Montreal Impact, who've been quite a delight in the MLS Eastern Conference. Henry, pure pace this time. Picked off by Bernier, but overcooked that just a little with Henry waiting. ESPN's MLS All-Star Game brought to you by AT&T. Rethink possible. And also by Taco Bell. Sometimes you gotta live mass. If you look at the cauldron, they like to say welcome to blue hell here. Kansas City, it's an old Wizards jersey you're looking at there. But Thierry Henry is going to depart. Two forwards at opposite ends of their career, exchanging pleasantries there. Henry making way for Jack McInerney. Jack Mac, as the Union fans love to call him. They've become quite accustomed to seeing him putting the ball in the back of the net. Although Taylor, of course, his run has been interrupted by that call-up to the U.S. national team.
Well, it's difficult for a young forward like Jack McInerney, because when you've scored 10 goals in those first 15 games of the season, he hasn't scored in his last 5, particularly because he went away with the national team for 2 or 3 weeks, and you lose that rhythm. It's very important for the Union that McInerney gets on the score sheet very quickly here.
Yeah, he was the first into double figures in MLS this season. Hasn't been able to add to his tally since. Chris Wondolowski. Nobody scored more goals over the last 3 years than he has.
Only 66 in 107 games, by the way.
Just the 66? Well, he tied the single-season record last year, didn't he, with 27? A record that has stood since the first year of the league, and Roy Lassiter. Wondolowski, as you look at what he's done, really consistent this season. Like his club, San Jose, has been a bit of a tail off. San Jose Earthquakes currently struggling a little. Signs they're starting to get it together under Mark Watson, the new coach. But it's been a strange year for the Earthquakes after they won the Supporters' Shield in such style last year under Frank Gallup. Free kick has gone Roma's way. Yeah, Roma were the side to watch in Serie A last season if you wanted entertainment and goals, Taylor. They scored 71, that was the third best in the division, but they conceded 56, and there are only 3 teams in all of Serie A who conceded more than them, and 2 of them went down.
I think it's going to be very interesting over the next 10 days to 2 weeks. What happens to Daniel De Rossi?
Yeah.
What happens to Osvaldo? Do they sell him? Do they move on? Do they get younger?
Almost like the junior Francesco Totti through. Has reached a similar stage, and that Totti was almost lured away by Real Madrid when he was to Bradley bursting through. Balzaretti. Mike McGee. Best goal-scoring year since his rookie season, Taylor, Mike McGee. He scored 7 as a precocious 18-year-old in New York.
If we're talking about Chicago Fire, late September, early October, Mike McGee's MVP. Very similar to the change that Dwayne De Rosario had in DC United in 2011.
Yeah.
And I know some people will say, well, a player has to make the playoffs in order to be MVP, but De Rosario made that case very hard to not make him MVP. Mike McGee's doing that right now in Chicago.
Left LA back on May the 25th after 4.5 years there, 2 championships with the Galaxy, and went home essentially to the Fire. And has hit the ground running. 7 goals in 9 games for Frank Lopez's side as Donovan swings in the cross. McGee looking back in the direction of Landon Donovan. Inch perfect too. Donovan, it's the angle for the cross. Any signs of encouragement for you, Taylor, from what you've seen from the All-Stars in the early goings here in the second half with all the changes?
Yeah, but this has been the sign right here. Roma's had a little bit more difficult time the last 10, 12 minutes because Camilo, McInerney, McGee, Wondolowski, Donovan, high pressure.
Connery Ash disappointed with himself, just overran that. Now, recent champions in the Gold Cup, the United States men's national team's next action will be on ESPN 2 weeks from today as the United States take on Bosnia and Herzegovina. Very possibly Miralem Pjanic will be in that team. US soccer on Wednesday, August the 14th, 2:25 on ESPN2. Also on the Watch ESPN app. It's a goal scorer Alessandro Florenzi, who's made way for Marquinhos. Daniele De Rossi has come on. The junior version of Francesco Totti in the Roman Legend Stakes. De Rossi, and as Taylor mentioned, it's been almost a daily occurrence in the Italian papers and around Europe, speculating where Daniele De Rossi might go if indeed he does. Francesco Totti has pleaded with him to stay in Rome. Ambitious, that one from Camilo from distance.
Well, and you know every U.S. soccer fan right now is throwing their remote the moment De Rossi came in for that elbow in Brian McBride in 2006.
Yep. It's the one that kept him out 4 games in the World Cup, but he came back for the final, didn't he?
It's a dilemma, though, in Roma, because he's the highest paid player in Serie A. And if you can get a good chunk of change from him from either Manchester City or Chelsea, why not?
That's a who's who of European football has been linked with De Rossi, PSG, Real Madrid, Chelsea.
Man United. There's McGee. Well, that was a Totti-esque pass from Mike McGee. Wondolowski was the man it was geared towards. McGee trying to make things happen. Ash. Outside for Donovan. Not the cross that Donovan was looking for, though. Easily cut out by De Rossi. And the pressure's relieved, and now Roma will try and cook some up of their own. Bradley. 30 appearances and 1 goal in his first season with Roma for Michael Bradley. Signed a 4-year deal after moving from Chievo, another Italian side. And to look at that transfer fee now, Taylor, $4 million. What a bargain that was, Michael Bradley, this time last year. You have to feel he would go for at least twice that now on the open market, if not more.
Yeah, but I think it's been his transformation under Jurgen Klinsmann with the U.S. men's national team. I mean, Alexi Lawless and I argue about it all the time. Who's the most important player for the U.S. team? And he says it without a doubt, it's Michael Bradley.
Bradley has played more times for the U.S. than any other player over the last 7 years. 1 more than Clint Dempsey. Every minute in World Cup qualifying so far. It's Dempsey and Howard who are closest to him in terms of those appearances.
Substitution for the mlsallstar, 66.
And again, happy birthday to Michael Bradley. Returns 26 today, and it's the end of the evening for Corey Ash, and the first rookie appearance of the night, DeAndre Yedlin. What a big moment for him. He's made quite a splash in Seattle. Now it's Donovan trying to make a splash, but denied by DeSantis. Aurelian Collin lofting it. McGee! Well, Mike McGee caught hold of it. Plenty of punch behind it, but let's have a look at the previous opportunity for Donovan.
Well, you asked me about 10 minutes ago what's changed this second half. It's the high pressure from the MLS All-Stars. Roma having a tough time coming out from the back, and then how about this first time hit from Mike McGee?
Yeah, we should point out actually that the Roma goalkeeper has changed as well. Morgan DeSantis is not in. Bogdan Labont, who was the Romanian #1 and has been for several years, is now in for Roma. He's been a man who's had to be very patient. He's been a #2 for so long in his career. Labont. Here's Tallow. Told us see this. Omar Gonzalez getting it clear. Wondolowski couldn't latch on, and Strootman takes over for Roma. Midway point of the second half here in the All-Star game. Bradley, oh, that was a beautiful ball. Tallow has got there, and Roma have made it 3 as they carve open the All-Stars defense. Quick, incisive passing, and this time it's the young Ivorian Junior Tallow who gets the finishing touch.
I think the most impressive thing about tonight's game from Roma is just the interaction between Strootman and Michael Bradley. Michael Bradley's peeling off the back line from the MLS All-Stars, but Strootman stays alive, unselfish here. But how about the movement coming out of the midfield? It is such a difficult run to pick up. He's coming from a deep line position in the midfield, and then that makes Tallow's job so much easier just getting on the end of it. Great combination play from Strootman and Bradley.
Well, that was another half clearance, wasn't it, at the back that cannoned into the goal.
Goal's a goal, Adrian.
Yeah, it was a goal. A goal scorer would always say a goal is a goal. And he'd be right. It's Tallo's goal, and the MLS All-Stars have it all to do. Camilo. Now the decision has gone against him. Up against Mehdi Benatia there. Mehdi Benatia, the Moroccan international, who has chosen to wear number 17, which is considered an unlucky number in Italy. Well, Roma giving the All-Stars a taste of what Manchester United did. Those couple of All-Star games in a row, heavy defeats against United. Labonte out to De Rossi. His father is a coach with the Roma Primavera team, the youth team. Touch on there was from Marquinhos. Roma had a Marquinhos and a Marquinhos last year, but they've solved that problem by getting rid of Marquinhos, selling him to PSG. Oh, Camilo. Again from long range. Hope you can join us for our next MLS game of the week. Coming up in about a week and a half. We'll be in Dallas for the visit of the Los Angeles Galaxy. That's Sunday, August the 11th. We'll bring it to you at 8 Eastern on ESPN2, and right after it will be the debut of ESPN FC, our new studio show. That'll be 6 days a week. Donovan, some space to break into here, but Bradley was so quickly across. Bernier. Wide to DeAndre Yedlin. He's the first rookie to appear in an MLS All-Star game since Michael Parkhurst, your teammate. Taylor did so in 2005. Low driven cross from Camilo. Camilo seeing a lot of the ball. Now Gonzalez. Now one of those centre-back wanting to be a centre-forward moments, Taylor.
Yeah, but to go back to Yedlin, we called his games in the Under-20 World Cup, and I think the biggest bright spot in that World Cup for Tab Ramos was DeAndre Yedlin at right back. I think he has a huge future, and I'm not surprised that the commissioner in 2013, one of his picks, is a homegrown player, because now we've seen it with the LA Galaxy, the New York Red Bulls, FC Dallas, and now the first homegrown player for the Seattle Sounders. That's where the importance of finding young players early on now helps rosters in MLS.
He's the third youngest ever to play in an MLS All-Star game, behind Freddie Adu and Juan Agudelo. And a former protege of Caleb Porter, his time at Akron. DeAndre Yedlin. We're well inside the final 20 minutes. And no signs of a comeback yet from the All-Stars. Three players starting tonight from Sporting Kansas City. Only one is left out there. And only three from the last 7 home teams in the All-Star game had started. Kyle Beckerman in 2009 and Thierry Henry and Tim Ream a year later for New York. This fabulous stadium that's been open just a little over 2 years now. April of 2011, or rather June of 2011, we were here for the opener. And it has become such a tough place to come and get a result in the league. Sporting Kansas City have become a permanent fixture, it seems, at the top of the Eastern Conference. Colin diving in there. Bernier's ball picked off. Well, not a great night so far for MLS, Taylor, but it has been a very interesting week, isn't it, for the league, and a good week, you'd have to say.
Well, you've brought up those MLS All-Star games with Manchester United in 2010, 2011. This isn't a statement of what U.S. soccer is about in MLS. I mean, look at this week. Columbus Crew were sold from $65 million plus. That includes the stadium. DC United is on the verge of having their own stadium. And what people need to remember at home, right now this second half, the MLS All-Stars have 5 forwards on the team.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Roma's a team. They've got players playing positions. They've got a formation. They're used to it. This is what it's supposed to be, a showcase for the fans, and that's all it is.
The referee's viewpoint of Francesco Totti. A bit of verbal jousting there with Aurelian Collin. He can never dial down those competitive juices. Aurelian Collin as Totti swings it in. De Rossi's header. Well, he was unmarked, but Romando was in the right place.
There's a perfect example when you have 5 forwards defending on a set piece. We're not supposed to be back there.
I remember you doing your fair share as DeAndre Yedlin with the inadvertent back pass there to Romando. Can the All-Stars give this big crowd something to cheer here? A night that really seemed unthinkable only 7 or 8 years ago, the fact that we'd be here talking about a sellout for an MLS All-Star game in a facility like this.
Well, I remember in 2002, I had just come back from Germany and we're playing. And obviously my family's in St. Louis, and it's the first game my mom comes to. And after the game, she looked at me and said, "You came back for this?" 4,200 fans in Arrowhead.
It's one of those Wednesday nights at Arrowhead. I think I remember it, Taylor.
Well, and I thought Don Garber said it best. I mean, in 2010, Sporting Kansas City was playing in a baseball stadium. If anyone can do it, if Kansas City can do it, then anyone can do it. And I think the new ownership in Columbus, a new stadium with new ownership at D.C., maybe there's hope for a new stadium in New England.
One of the great turnarounds in the history of professional sports in America is how Don Garber framed it. I don't think he's far wrong. It's a good cross coming in towards the head of Camilo. That was McInerney making things happen. Camilo Sanvezo, to give him his full name. His 3rd year with Vancouver is Camilo. 80 appearances and 30 goals already that he's bagged in those 3 years. Corner for the All-Stars. No real pressure on Bradley, though, able to take it away. Now the break is on, and Tallo is on his way. Junior Tallo. Yedlin across to meet him. Tallo with the angled ball. Strootman almost got there. It was acrobatic from Nick Romando to prevent him from doing so. Action quickly switching to the other end. Jack Mack on the ball, but there's Leandro Castan, the Brazilian centre-back. Totti has really put on a show, isn't he? Rolling back the years as he's done seemingly every season. You think it might be his last. Lots of people in Rome are worried that this year might actually be his last. And you talked about it, Marco Di Vaio, his good friend, spoke to him at some length about coming to MLS last year. A possibility that intrigued Francesco Totti, I think was his words, but so tied to that city. He is that city, the city of Rome.
Would you be shocked in the new stadium 2016-17? There's not a statue outside of it?
Yeah, there should be, or at least a fountain. It is the city of fountains, as is this one actually, Kansas City, but Totti to still be playing. That new stadium is not due to open until 2016. Gianluca Caprari is going to come on here for Tallo. Pretty decent outing for Junior Tallo, wasn't it? As Caprari comes on, another player who's come back from a spell in the second division. Actually, he was with Pescara last year, who got relegated. Totti, picked off by Colin. All the way through from Camillo. There's Caprari. Tarasidis. McGee able to pick it off, but they want it right back at Roma. Colin had to be firm with the challenge. Now Camillo. Bradley across to meet him. Camillo going on a slaloming run. Colin is still out there. I think Peter Vermees is going to be true to his word. I think Colin is going to go the full 90 minutes. DeAndre Yedlin. Omar Gonzalez. Going to be an interesting next few weeks, isn't it, for Omar Gonzalez? I'll come back to that because the cross is coming in. Oh, and Lamont seemed to be in two minds. Maybe he had it covered. Yedlin was crashing in to meet it.
It's a good ball, though, back post, because you have Chris Wondolowski, Yedlin coming in late out of the midfield. Unlucky for the MLS All-Stars. But you bring up an interesting point about Omar Gonzalez, and I take that to the LA Galaxy. I am extremely shocked that on July 31st, we still don't have a third designated player there yet.
Right. Want to talk earlier in the season, would they make Omar Gonzalez their third designated player? And seemingly a reluctance to do so at league level, isn't it? But what lies in his future, Taylor? What does he need to do? Because he is going to be heading towards the last 6 months of his contract within the space of the next few days.
Well, I don't think he has to change anything. He has to continue his play under Jurgen Klinsmann for the U.S. national team, but numbers don't lie, and the record since 2011 with Omar Gonzalez in that lineup is remarkable.
Yeah.
And so I asked then LA Galaxy, you have a third DP slot. You don't know, Frank Lampard doesn't come. Why not make Omar Gonzalez that third DP?
Well, Yedlin is a little talking to here. 16 appearances, 1 goal and 1 assist in league play for DeAndre Yedlin with the Seattle Sounders. Gonzalez They're ahead of Totti, but Roma again so quick to win it back. Gonzalez is another who's played every minute in World Cup qualifying for the US in this cycle. McGee. It's getting a little chippy out there. Michael Bradley just stepping in to cool things down with Mike McGee, former teammates in New York. Conversation still continuing. Marquinhos has been booked. Amazing to think back that 1 year of Michael Bradley with what was then the Metro Stars. He led the team in playing time that season as an 18-year-old. Remains the youngest to do so in MLS history. And that was under his father, of course, Bob Bradley. Now Wondolowski, to Yedlin! Oh, Yandri Yedlin had a golden opportunity to give the crowd something to savor.
But this is what U.S. soccer fans are drooling over with Yedlin going forward. It's his understanding. Look, watch this. He continues to use run on the inside. Instead of overlapping on Wondolowski, he opens up his space right here. He's got all the physical tools to be a special outside fullback. Great run forward.
And well found, wasn't he, by Wondolowski's little back heel. Now, is there an opportunity here? It's a fierce enough drive from Bernier, but it was always curling wide. Another switch here, and it'll be the departure of Francesco Totti.
Substitution for asroma.
The man who symbolizes his city. The man who is a living legend leaves the scene.
How about the show he put on in the first half?
And we saw fireworks at half-time, didn't we? But fireworks of the footballing kind from Francesco Totti.
I think he played the first half with a martini and a cigar in his hand.
Well, time running out for the All-Stars. Just once have they been shut out, and that was that 4-0 defeat to Manchester United 2 summers ago. Back to Labonte. Roma working towards the start of their season, which will begin on August the 25th. They'll play their big derby against Lazio pretty early on as well, in week 4, but I know their Boston-based president, Jim Polata, has targeted the Champions League first and foremost, Taylor, isn't he? Is what Roma need to get back into.
Yeah, the two things he told me before the game were to get back in Champions League as soon as possible. But then that stadium in 2016, 2017, that's where he's going to leave his mark.
Oh, it's whipped in by Camilo, and some acrobatics from Castan. The towering Brazilian centre-back. He won the Copa de Libertadores with Corinthians just a year ago, Castan.
We've seen the last 2 or 3 corners from Camilo not get past that near post. With Gonzalez and Collin, get it over that near post.
Well, right on cue, Taylor, but Balzaretti was there to meet it. Here's Yedlin. Lovely turn from Wondolowski. A smooth drag back from the San Jose man, but his shot was blocked. Now Ricci. And a distraught Tony Beltran, who's also going to go the distance, it appears, the RSL man. It'll be 1 minute of stoppage time, we're told here at Sporting Park. Now Donovan, bit of space. Well, McInerney was his target, couldn't find him. Retrieved by Omar Gonzalez. MLS Defender of the Year 2 years ago. There's Omar Gonzalez, and then to come back from that devastating injury last year. Colin down the line for Beltran. Beltran's endeavours rewarded with a free kick. Well, Strootman really didn't like it, still staying competitive right to the last kick of the ball, the Dutch international. But this could be the last chance for the All-Stars to get on the board. One of the league's set-piece specialists, Camilo, standing over it. And it comes, and there is the goal for the All-Stars. It's Omar Gonzalez. He was the MLS Cup MVP back in December, and he's got the MLS All-Stars on the board here against Roma. Camilo's free kick doing the trick. Gonzalez doing the rest.
Well, and this service tonight from Camilo's been hit or miss, but this is a perfect ball. Perfect ball and whipped in with pace. And this is a simple finish for a player of the caliber of Omar Gonzalez. When a ball is whipped in with that pace, that kind of bend, it is a simple finish to get on the end of.
In his third All-Star game, Gonzalez giving the Cauldron and the citizens of Kansas City something at least to smile about. And it is pretty much the last effort of the game. Roma were handsome winners here. Goals early on in each half doing the trick. And MLS All-Stars coming back in, at least preventing the shutout. Omar Gonzalez header, leaving us with a final scoreline of MLS All-Stars 1, Roma 3. What is next for Daniel De Rossi? We shall have to wait and see. Kevin Strootman with a starring role here. Let's go for their thoughts now to the guys in the studio, led by Max Brados. Max.
Thank you, Adrian. A nice goal for cosmetic purposes for the MLS.
نخبة من نجوم التنس يتقارب مستواهم. بطولة كيتسبيل النمساوية للتنس تنطلق في دورتها السنوية وسط توقعات بمنافسات مفتوحة وقوية. بطولة كيتسبيل للتنس اليوم حصريا على قنوات الجزيرة الرياضية. منتخبا من خيرة سيدات الكرة الطائرة العالمية. 4 أسابيع من المنافسات التي تعد بمواجهات شيقة. بطولة الجائزة الكبرى للكرة الطائرة غدا حصريا على قنوات الجزيرة الرياضية.
this afternoon?
Corinthians are much better than São Paulo, but maybe with the removal of some players, São Paulo could play a little bit better today, but Corinthians are the big favorites.
Well, we have seen a number of games for these two teams, and neither really have enlightened this campaign so far. Corinthians been very conservative, but really they should be going for this one. When you look at São Paulo's recent awful form.
For sure, we are getting a minute of silence for Djalma Santos, legendary Brazilian right back. He was with Brazil in 58 and 62.
São Paulo then to get us underway. White shorts, red, black and white shirts. Corinthians in their white shirts, black shorts. São Paulo in trouble. Flamengo, Brazil's biggest side, also in the relegation zone. Some massive names down there at the moment. Early days, of course. Although we say early days, but we're almost at that 10-game mark where we say we have an idea of how the league will shape up.
Yeah, it's just been really weird, especially due to the Confederations Cup. We were stopped for such a long time. But you're starting to get an idea of what's going to go on. It's just, there's a lot of surprises. I mean, Corinthians not being so far up, São Paulo, Flamengo being in the relegation zone. Some teams that are up there that probably didn't expect to be up there. With all respects to Curitiba, but I didn't really expect them to be where they are, and they are playing amazingly well. Botafogo have a good team, been playing well.
Wilson Passos. We'll try to let this game flow, which is exactly what we want to see. As Palandre launches it forward. Nicely done. Nearly through though in the end for Corinthians. Has gone São Paulo's way. But then why? Let's start with São Paulo. Why are they in such a mess?
Wow, it's not that simple of an answer, but one thing is the administration been having arguments amongst themselves, and they've made a lot of changes in the past few years as coaches. They hired Ney Franco. Ney Franco stayed for a year. He didn't get along at the end of his stay. He wasn't even getting along with the players too well. You also have Rogério Ceni, who should be retiring. He's going to retire this year, but maybe he should have retired already. Although when I say that, he's a legendary keeper, but he's just not the same as he used to be. And it's just these constant changes that haven't worked. And the São Paulo fans are also fans that put a lot of pressure on the team. They support the team when the team are doing well, but when São Paulo aren't doing well, they won't really fill the Morumbi. Not that many fans will go to the stadium, and there is a portion of the fans that put on a lot of pressure at São Paulo. Some players just can't do well with that amount of pressure. And hiring signings that didn't work. Lucio was an example. He's constantly being criticized. I think he's kind of being the scapegoat. But he does tend to leave the area, and a lot of the São Paulo fans and the administration have actually criticized that. They want him to stay back more.
This is Romarinho to float this one forward. Not far enough, and our first effort on goal, and Ceni turns it away. Curling effort, and pulled back by Emerson, and the header this time floats over. Both teams claim it. Gil underneath it. And a decent effort. Guilherme's curling ball in, and Ceni saw that one late. He squeezed that shot in, and Rogério Ceni, who's had his critics, got across. Nice height for the keeper.
Well, Rogério, he still makes some good saves.